Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Listen with Vobes with me, Richard Vobes. And we are continuing with our book, The Peep Show. Yeah, I nearly called it the Sussex Peep Show then. The Peep Show. We've read the Sussex Peep Show a while ago. So here we are, just making sure everything's all good and that you can see and hear me. And we will say a few hellos to everybody. The lovely Julia is out there. Hello to you. To Turbo Stream. This gets earlier each day. What do you mean it gets earlier each day? It's at 4 o'clock? Full. Oh, I put the stream on early just so that certain people can find it, you see. Turbo Stream says, good afternoon from a sunny, dry but chilly Birmingham. Oh, golly, it seems to be chillier today. I have been hugging the fire pretty much all morning. Heidi Ho. Heidi Ho, everybody says Holly and Co. Billabong O'Neill is out there from South Links. Martin Cannon, hello to you. Avu Worthing, Justine Jones, Jen Coley, Dave Vjorn, John F, Philip Hammond and Mary. And we have Audrey Forbes, Martin Cannon. Sit down, everybody. Lee Lawson, here we go again, happy as can be. And Anne H, good afternoon to you as well. Marvellous stuff. And we're not quite even 4 o'clock. I have, as ever, my remedy for good health, and that is a bit of lemon and ginger and some of Southern Water's finest aqua. It's not quite, I don't think it's quite fermented yet. There's not enough alcohol in it. So they were all good friends and jolly good company. There we are. Well, we are, where are we? Look at that. We are nearly halfway through. It doesn't seem possible. What is this? Part 6. It seems impossible that we go through these books so rapidly. And there was me thinking it will take forever to go through these books. But some seem to be quicker than others. Right, I'm going to let this do its thing. I'll just give people a few more moments to arrive. I just want to see if Mr. Norris is going to turn up. I have some news to impart to him, which will be interesting, and interesting to everybody else. And we may do in tomorrow's, could have done it today, but in tomorrow's episode, I think we may do a big reveal in Listen With. I think it will be an appropriate thing, but we'll do it tomorrow, not today. Depends if Mr. Norris is out there. Anyway, shall we make a start? I think we ought. So this is chapter 10. Hang on, I'm going to have a slurp. In the kitchen, sewing token frocks and allotment rhubarb from last year. Oh, stewing. I thought it's sewing. It's going to be one of those shows, I can tell. Right, here we go. Chapter 10. I have never experienced such cheerful awakenings as those in my little tent. There in the field beneath Down Point, I came out of the sleeping bag into a dawn sunny and fresh. Into a dawn sunny and fresh, into a bright world of golden sunlight and glistening dewdrops. It is an exquisite pleasure to find oneself so suddenly in the sweep of morning air, to tumble out of bed, to clamber over a stone wall and scramble across some rushy dunes down to the untrodden seashore, there to take one's bath in the lively breakers. In the lively break, I've lost my space. Yes, there is such a sense of calm spaciousness about the early atmosphere. You wouldn't want to be doing that on a day like today, I can tell you that much. All the world seems refreshed and rejuvenated. Nothing but youth and beauty walks abroad. Sunlight and dewdrops make a glittering world where, beneath these charming decorations, all the sticks and stones, the grass, the furze bushes, and even the rows of mangolds take their place in the fairy scene. There is a buoyancy and a crispness in everything, an infectious spirit of loveliness and life. There is room to live, and to be alive seems a magnificent blessing. It was still early, and the road was deserted when I set off for Saunton. Now here I was, arrived... Hang on, sorry, 2 pages at once. Now here I was, arrived at that bit of country which I had hoped to work for a few weeks. Croyd had finished me with a casual collection of 6 shillings and an engagement. If Saunton, Braunton, and a few other places could encourage me to a similar extent, then my dreams of staying in this part of the world might come true. My dreams were of the rosiest that morning as I wandered along the bare road on the hillside with the green and purple sea below, and the wild, bright hill of gorse and heather running up to the bluest of skies. In those brilliant hours, I reared up castles and puppet shows too splendid for paradise itself. I wandered up the hill among the heather, and from the stone wall by the roadside, I enjoyed the expanse of sea that stretched away so gently to the dim coast about Clovelly. Or Clovelly, I'm not quite sure which is which. By the middle of the morning, I was in Saunton, and among the boarding houses and hotels I found a steep hill leading down to the shore. As I went down, I could not help remembering my own and others' jaunty ideas about doing a Punch and Judy show on the sea beaches. Oh, I think I might sneeze. Sorry about this. Just... Achoo!
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
I was ready with the hanky, though. Ready with the hanky. Nothing swimming in my drink. No, that's good. By the middle of the afternoon, I was in Saunton, and among the boarding houses and... Oh, I've read all that, haven't I? Houses. As I went down, I couldn't help remembering my own and other people's jaunty ideas about doing a Punch and Judy show on the sea beaches. It was such an easy thing to think of doing, just a bit of fun. But when I came to the actual task, it was to find that a popular sea beach is a serious business affair. At Ilfracombe, there would have been a stiff rent to pay. At Woolacombe, there was an agent to overcome. And now, when I had come upon the free beach at Saunton, it was to find my wheels buried in 6 inches of loose sand. For 100 yards I progressed as if the wheels were in a deep glue. On a portion of wet sand, progress was easier, but then I had to negotiate a region of shingle and irregular boulders. My word! But it is no joke doing Punch and Judy shows. These struggles brought me to the civilised part of the beach, to a few bathing tents and an ice cream man and his stall, an old chap with 2 donkeys and some deck chairs, and also a photographer while you wait man, or even a photograph while you wait man. That must have been quite interesting back in those days, actually, when you think about it. The photographers, the photographer while you wait. I wonder how long that you did have to wait. It wasn't Polaroid or anything like that. It was probably one of these big old plate glasses and, go and take the photo in the morning, whiz back to his studio to get his chemicals and darkroom and develop the thing, and then bring them back later on in the afternoon, I assume. Because we're talking about 1920s, aren't we? It's quite interesting. Only to a collector of fairy tales, of course. So where the devil was I? Wait a minute. Yes, the While You Wait. The 3 of them, that's the old chap with the 2 donkeys, the ice cream man and the photograph while you wait man, the 3 of them had made their preparations. The donkeys were saddled, the oranges, the toffees and the bottles of pop were neatly arranged on the stall. The photographer had his bucket of water, and they were now waiting for their nets spread for the promised influx of excursions who were to arrive in the afternoon. I wonder what the photographer wanted his bucket of water for. Was he doing the developing of the pictures there and then, or was the water in case the flash, caught fire to somebody? I ought to know that, being somebody who deals with digital photography. Coming on them as a stranger and as a rival hunter after pennies, I felt very doubtful as to how I should behave towards them. Their reception soon decided this difficult point of etiquette. It was the donkey man, tall, handsome old chap, who noticed me first. With a beaming smile and a white, childish joy, he called out, "Why, if it ain't a Punch and Judy show, well, I'm blessed." The ice cream man wiped his hands on his wiped his hands on his white apron and came up to me, smiling amiably, while the photographer took his pipe from his mouth to promise me some good audiences later on. Their reception was so friendly and natural, their smiles so guileless, that I felt a brother beachcomber at once. After a refreshing swim and some lunch, I set up the peep show ready for action, while the photographer poured out his woes to me. It was already 2:00, and he had only taken 2 photographs, while by this time yesterday he had taken 13, and that was bad enough. We sat down on the rock to enjoy a friendly smoke, and this was the tale that he told. I was first of all a tailor, and then I kept a hotel at the seaside town. One day, when I was sailing, I made friends with a Spaniard. We got on well for a few weeks, and then one morning he told me he had no more money, so I lent him some to start a photographic studio with. We then heard that the instantaneous photographic stunt was being a great success in America, so we bought an outfit and tried it. My friend worked it, and I went along to keep him company. Well, we went out on parade where there were a lot of coal miners, and we soon got a crowd around us clamouring to be photographed. My friend worked away, but nearly every photograph was a dud. Not that that mattered, for black as the pictures were, the miners seemed to be pleased with them, and they all wanted to have them taken. But it worried me. That's always been my fault. You see, I'm too conscientious to swindle the public. So I studied the thing, found out how to work it properly, and took the job on myself. Of course, my friends about the town were very surprised to see me doing this sort of thing, and after I'd been carrying on for some weeks, one of them came up to me and he said, "I've been watching you, and I saw what I was doing and how I was making money." And it was true as I'm standing here, well, sitting here. When the war came, I joined up, and the hotel business broke down. But after the war, I bought this up-to-date machine, the best you can get, and made the price of it very quickly while I was still in camp. Now that I've got a shack down the road to go with, and a year or two, I hope to move into something a bit better. I asked him what he did in the winter. "Oh, I do a bit at a fair sometimes," he said. "But there should be no need to work in the winter. I reckon to take 100 photographs a day during the season." And he was charging $1 each for his photographs. And he would, at that rate, be taking his £5 a day. I wonder what £5 a day was back in 1925 or something like that. After this recital, several wagons and charabancs deposited their passengers at Saunton, and we soon had a fair crowd on the beach. There were a number of stout and thin old ladies, and a corresponding number of husbands, all in their stiff Sunday best, who settled themselves in black and sombre groups about the rocks. The young people spread themselves out to play games and to shout. The ice cream stall was immediately surrounded with a crowd of customers, and the 2 donkey men began their job of walking dramatically to point and then turning round to trot home in a hurry. The photographer launched a veritable attack on his victims. With camera in one hand and his bucket in the other, he dashed upon the different groups with fierce excitement. To him it was a dire necessity that they should be photographed, and photographed they were. I'm guessing that this is, even though it's in 1920 and even though photography was relatively new, seeing as it was about 1880, wasn't it? Developed. So it's in 40 years. I guess somehow there must be a process where you take the picture in its frame or whatever, shove it into the water, and it somehow develops. And then you peel out the picture. So I guess it must be a process that probably took about 15, 20 minutes. People wouldn't wait any longer, would they? Quite remarkable. And then it probably took another 40 years till we got the Polaroid. So it's quite an insight, isn't it, I think, when you read these old books about the sort of things that people did. Anyway, it was a little digest, wasn't it? It was late in the afternoon when I and the photographer compared business notes. "Not much go in this crowd," he said with a sneer, and grumbled at having taken only £3. I confessed that I had not done very well, but I did not dare to invite his scorn by saying that 3 shows had only bought me as many shillings. I was ashamed. I picked up the peep show in desperation and set it in a new position where the people were thickest. I blew the trumpet and went round announcing a show. After the performance, I collected from everyone whether they had seen the show or not. This effort resulted in a collection of 4 shillings and an ice cream from a smiling proprietor of the stall who said he liked to see something he said he liked to see something with a go to it. At 7 o'clock, the excursions went away in their charabancs, and we 4 businessmen were left to pack up. The photographer invited me to join him at the hotel in a whisky and soda, but I was too anxious to find a pitch for the night to indulge in that conviviality. The donkey man soon got his tents and chairs into his cart, and as he drove past me, he said, "Well, young man, you've done well, and that you'll see us again tomorrow." The tide was creeping in around the legs of the ice cream stall, and I lent a hand in picking up the oranges and bottles of pop and putting them into the cart and taking down the sticks. As a reward, my truck was hitched on behind the cart, and I was saved the labour of pulling it up over the sand. I pulled into the little village, which is a row of cottages and 2 old whitewashed farms standing under great elm trees. The first farmer had no room or no inclination for my camping, and the second farmer was away. I pulled a mile back to the Burrows, an arid, melancholy waste of sandy hills and rushes, where in the last of the glimmering twilight I found a little fairy hillock covered with pretty young ash trees. Here, under the canopy of leaves, and with the stars glittering between, I slept in the open without bothering to set up the tent. And so endeth that chapter. It's a short one. How are we doing over there? Andrew Norris has arrived. Andrew Norris, some jolly information to impart to you. Should have brought it into the studio. But a box so big by so wide with black dots on it arrived about half an hour ago. Half an hour. And I understand that it contains puppets. Puppets for our version of Walter Wilkinson. So tomorrow I'm going to open the box and reveal the puppets to you. I could have done it today, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. So now you can reveal now. Oh, yes, there we are. In fact, I have. Yeah, so we've got a new set of puppets that Andrew's been making for our puppet reenactment. So, yeah. Susan Luca has arrived, and she says, "Oh, my days, I've always seemed to be catching up with this lovely book. The book started off where I used to live. How good is your accent?" Yeah, how good is it? Is it a bit bad, is it? Is it a little bit sort of, I don't know whether it's any good or not, see? Might be a bit of a theatrical version of it. But there we go. Brilliant. That was really quick. Yes, it was really quick, Andrew. So, tomorrow I'm going to open it on live on the show here, this show. Because as we're reading the Peep Show, I think it will add a certain je ne sais quoi. I used to know a young kid called Thomas Descent Quoi. I don't know what it meant. Anyway, chapter 11. It does have, these aren't really titles. I haven't read them out. I've just realised I haven't read these out because they're not really titles. But it says here, Orchard Camp, Children and the Show, The Ice Cream Man. It's like a little precy, isn't it? If Saunton was unkind to me in the evening, it made amends in the morning. After breakfast, on the lonely burrows, I returned to the village, and finding Farmer Heeneman at home, asked permission to camp in his fields. This perspiring and enormous man was plainly puzzled by such an exotic affair as a well-spoken young man with a Punch and Judy show and a lightweight camp. But he scratched his head and brought his mind to bear upon the subject. I understood him to say that it was hot, that it was terribly warm, work at the field. But for the most part, his good Devonshire dialect left me wondering. I hazarded some sympathetic grunts, which were neither yea or nay in character, hoped his crop was a good one, and that the fine weather would hold out for a day or two. At this, his speech seemed to grow plainer, and presently he was inviting me to camp wherever I liked, and to have a cup of tea with the missus when I felt like it. In the corner of one of his orchards, I set up the tent, and as I drove in the pegs and saw how well the encampment fitted with the surroundings, I was soon conceiving plans of staying there for a few restful days. The puppets were in need of certain renovations. On Saturday, I would be able to perform again on the sands to the weekend influx of visitors, and perhaps in the meantime I might achieve something in the way of engagements. These were quite feasible plans, worthy of a professor of business, but the pleasure of camping in the pretty country so near the sea was the dominant attraction. I liked my corner in the orchard. It was an ideal place of green grass and old apple trees, a happy mixture of sunlight and shadow, with a cool breeze wandering through it. Over the hedge between the elms, I could see the white village and the downs beyond. From over the burrows, I could hear the waves beating on the shores. I took this all in as one of the rewards that come from a wandering showman. Beyond going into Broughton and getting myself engaged to perform at a holiday bank fete, I see what he's saying. Beyond going to Broughton and getting myself engaged to perform at a bank holiday fete, I'd hardly stirred from the orchard. I turned out the 2 boxes and enjoyed a glorious spring cleaning. The puppets were as appreciative of the surroundings as the showman, and looked over the edge of their box with lively anticipation. They scattered themselves on the grass and among the apples of the trees, and were very impatient for a few necessary stitches to their clothes and touches of paint on the ends of their noses. I wandered about barefoot, leaned over a gate and conversed with the horses in the next field, or leaned over the road gate and conversed with passers-by. For the first time I put the puppets through some carefully studied rehearsals and launched out tentatively into new scenes. I began to think of settling down here for life, or at least the summer. From the Staunton beach I would be able to collect my £1 a week, and in between the shows I could sit in the orchard making, or thinking about making, the most delightful puppet show that ever was. On the Saturday afternoon I was down again on the Saunton sands in the company with the ice cream stall and the donkeys. A similar number were on the shore, and these gathered round as soon as I set up the show. They clung to me the whole afternoon, and most of them watched every performance. The Peep Show became the children's rendezvous, and if some of them were torn away by nurses or parents to bathe or to get their tea, they arranged to meet again on the shingle bank outside my theatre. Inside the curtains between the performances, I sat listening to their talk, and for once, in a way of an eavesdropper, heard for some good what, and for once, in the way of an eavesdropper, heard some good of himself. After enjoying a period of general discussion, their interest came back to the show. "I wonder what he'll do this time. What did you see? I saw them fighting. Wasn't that funny? I've seen a lot of Punch and Judy shows. I like this better than Punch and Judy. Do those figures really speak? No. Silly. Man speaks for 'em, doesn't he? I thought he had a lady in there too. Did you? Yeah, I wish they'd do that moving again. Have you bathed? No, I wish I'd hurry up. I should have to go and bathe before the show begins. Hurry up, Mr. Punch. We're waiting. Mr. Punch, hurry up." Then began an argument between a clergyman and his son who wished to see the fun. The son was requested to go away and bathe, but he stoutly refused to be shifted from the show. All the persuasions of his mother and sisters and the gentle pulling of his father only got him standing sideways on one leg and one hand out of his trouser pocket. I could see this drama through the hole in the curtains, and was inspired to put up a puppet who told the boy to go away, as there would not be a performance for a long time. But this was a great mistake, for the urchin thought the show was about to begin. He tore himself away from his father, sat down on the shingle with eager eyes directed towards the theatre. So I went outside myself and added my persuasions to those of his relations, explaining that my puppets were having their tea and a smoke. Having a smoke?
That's the way to do it. Oh, I'll have a little puff, won't you? Yes, that's right, I'll have a puff too. Oh, we can all both have a puff. Have you got a pipe? No, I haven't got a. You thought I gave you the pipe. You didn't give me the pipe. Oh, yes, I did. Why are you using my voice? It's the same as my voice. No, it's not. Oh, yes, it is, isn't it, boys and girls? It is my voice, isn't it? He's stolen my voice, hasn't he, boys and girls? No, I haven't. I haven't stolen his voice at all. Yes, you have. Which, oh, God.
That was Naked Punch and Judy. You had to be over 18 for that one. Ooh.
That's the way to do it.
Shut up. Just read the book, Vobes. Yes, all right. Where are we? I've lost my space now. Yes, so he grumbled at length about his day. Come and see his... What else? The sun was... Yeah, and there was a great mistake. So I went outside. The show wouldn't be on for a long, long time. Now, this had been quite an affair on the beach, collecting a few spectators around. And may I be forgiven, but I started a performance to this ready-made crowd as soon as the lad's back was turned. I feel the guilt of it on me to this day. That poor kid.
Oh, all right then. I'll come back later when the show's on.
Right, come on, let's do the show. What a swine, eh? What a swine. There goes the tooth, says the lovely Julia. So I pick them all up at the end of the show, you know. Susan Lucas says, frighteningly good, but when I used to work at Cheltenham, I had to learn to pronounce my T's. Oh, T's. Tomorrow? Aye, we're going to go tomorrow. Is it like... No, that's up north, isn't it? You missed Julia's tea and cakes, Michael. Oh, does she have a new pot of tea ready? No worries. Oh, lovely. We'll come on the bus. No swazzle needed for the Vobes. Oh, yes, we need a little swazzle. Well, he doesn't have a swazzle, does he?
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I did try a swazzle once. I couldn't work it. Had no idea how to get it to go. It was a right old swizz, that swazzle. It was a swizz, the swizzy whiz, the swizz of the swazzlies woo. Anyway, These children's minds were probing into the depths of my performance, and they surprised me with their remarks and powers of observation. It was essential that nearly everything in my travelling outfit should serve two purposes. The large black bottle, which was theatrical property of a scene of The Magic Chest, was a water bottle in my camping equipment. But this afternoon, in order to support myself through some hours of showing, I'd filled it with tea, and these children had actually noticed in the successive performances that the contents of the bottle was getting less and less. To my embarrassment, two minute sisters in rainbow waders had peered through the curtains just as I was in the act of tipping up the bottle, and had run back to their mother with loud cries of, "He's drinking the beer! We saw him! He's drinking the beer! Come and see the man, mother! He's drinking the beer!" Don't say that, they'll all be round. So my time on the beach passed pleasantly with the children, for besides listening to them from inside the curtains, I sometimes sat among them on the shingle, making friends with them and their amiable parents. I collected 9 shillings and 11pence, mostly in pennies, the ice cream man contributing again from his stock, this time in gooseberries. When our patrons had all gone home, we packed up our respective properties and debated one with another, which was we packed up our respective properties and debated one with another which was most tired by his day's work. He grumbled at the length of his day. Who did? Which one? "I get up at 4 on these days when I come out," he said. It must be the ice cream man then, I guess. I have to make 2 lots of cream, one for the wife in the shop and one down here. Course. I do pretty well on a good day. Everything sells for more down here than it does in the shop. I get 2p a bottle for pop and a penny more for oranges. And of course, if I run short towards the evening and there's lots of people about, the price goes up a bit more. It's been a long day. When I get up, I open my eyes with 2 cups of tea, and then I take a couple of raw eggs. And I don't have anything more till I get home at 9 or 10 o'clock, when I'm ready for a good all-round breakfast. Then I come down to the sands and don't have anything all day, not until I get back in the evening. When I've had a good dinner of whatever is going, roast meat, steaks, pudding, anything, then comes the best job of the day. Jolly nice job that is, counting the takings. And that must take him a good time, for there was a circle around his stall all day, licking ices, chewing sweets and drinking pop. He must have taken as many pounds in the day as I took shillings. So while he was making a fortune by giving people the stomachache and ruining their digestion, I, the artist, the inspirer of gladness, of joy, of laughter, must tear myself to bits and starve. And there endeth the lesson, ladies and gentlemen, of that chapter. We are now on chapter 12. This is shorter little chapters. 10 bob, 49 quid. How marvellous. What's ever happened to Sean? We don't see Sean James Cameron these days, do we? Has he disappeared off the face of? Certain people keep just vanishing. Are you not getting hungry? Do you eat some of the regulars? Chapter 10. Chapter 12. Crouching on all fours at the door of my little tent, I looked out into a Monday morning, grey and misty with rain. It was that steady, unashamed kind of rain that means for keeping falling for a long time. And I was undoubtedly confronted with that question so persistently levelled at me by uncamping people: whatever do you do when it rains? This is what I did. I shut up the tent as closely as I could manage and crawled back into bed, not to sleep, but to sit up in a comfortable state of undress. Then I lit the stove, put on the milk and water for coffee, and cut 2 slices of bread for toasting. Then I reflected that I was warm and dry, that I was about to have breakfast in bed, that I had some books to read and some socks to darn, and that I envied hardly another man in the world. The good breakfast reduced me to such a deplorable state of comfort that I declined to wash up or to get up, and I quite forgot about the socks. Instead, I pulled out a pencil and a notebook, and there, among all the crumbs and unwashed dishes, fell into a blissful reverie, in which, with the help of several cigarettes, I wrote down the following words as an explanation or an excuse for the modern poet. I am a poet, I, sitting, tired, grumbling, a poet too tired for rhymes, too sad to sing in jaunty rhymes, weighed down, oppressed with modernity. Haunted and moved by the poems of old, the songs of sleeping poets, their songs once but now dreams, faint, incomplete, unsatisfying to us who must live and sing. The 20th century, the distinguished 20th century, distinguished by its dirtiness. Athens and Rome paid tribute to the gods in white marble and immense praise. And we have our temples too. We can imitate the art of Greece, of Egypt, even of Timbuktu. But our genuine outpouring of native spirit, our particular contribution to the ages, is the black smoke that rises from 1,000,000 grimy stacks, the Black Country. It took some time to get as far as that. This true but gloomy picture might have been painted blacker still had I not been interrupted by the piping voice of a boy outside the tent asking if anyone was at home. This boy had come to tell me that a lady at Baggy Point was coming to see me about doing a Punch and Judy show for her on Wednesday. This disturbance over, I laced up the tent again, got back into bed, and continued the poem, which, by this time, I was beginning to enjoy thoroughly. Yes, we have our temples, immense, marvellous, even artistic. They rise around us and above and below, in country, in town, Kingsway, Aldwych, where you will. And their offerings to the gods are immense and marvellous, but not always artistic. Soaps, corset, margarines, powder puffs and toffee, millions of mantelpiece ornaments, litter for grin-crack tables, imitations, substitutes, adulterations. These are the offerings of our soaring temples, and the music, the poetry, the praise, all our passion and fervent of life is expressed in a new music of typewriters and telephones, hooters and crushers and grinders, rackety mowing machines, strident whistles and sirens and steam sirens. With such harsh sounds we speak aloud, our agony of the ages. Not a very rhyming sort of poem, but it is written like a poem. Here, another voice called to me from outside the tent. This time it was a baker who, quite incidentally, offered me some bread, but with great eagerness informed me that a lady at Baggy Point was coming to see me about doing a Punch and Judy for her on Wednesday. This confirmation of the boy's report made the engagement sound a certain thing, and I went on with my poem, with hope revived. I, the poet, retire. For me, the woods of green trees, the clean air and the bright sunlight. The rivers flow as old through the green fields, among the silver and gold of daisies and buttercups, under stately elms, or the delicate willows and alders. Here birds are flying and fish swimming. the animals progress upon their graceful legs, naturally and calmly, except when a man appears. Then, like a poet, they retire, more quickly than gracefully, for 20th century man has abandoned his graceful legs, and is whirled hither and thither by snorting devils that cough and bark, greasy, gritty abominations of stinks and dirt. I, the poet, fly with the birds from the coarse young men and the thoughtless women who bestride the aimless engines, all racing one another up and down the roads to nowhere. For me, the sweetly running river, the sensitive trees, the singing birds, my pictures, the landscape, my drama, the movement of the heavens, my orchestra, the blended country sounds, my temple, the great wide spaciousness of nature. Some day, perhaps the poet will reawaken and sing in exquisite, satisfying rhyme, in maddening rhymes. So, there is a credo of a wandering Punch and Judy man. And when I came out of this delightful period of dreams and self-indulgence, I found that I had solved the problem of what to do when it rains, for the rain had ceased, and I was at liberty. As I looked over the orchard gate, waiting for a gossip, a motor bus pulled up in the road, and the driver beckoned to me, he leaned over his door and said, "There's a lady at Baggy Point. Wants to see you about doing a puppet show. Punch and Judy." I did not wait any more. I obtained the lady's name and address, and although it began to rain again, I set off to trace this thrice-repeated message to the fountain head. The rain came blowing off the sea in a drenching mist, which soon saturated my only clothes. But all the same, I enjoyed the walk, which might, as the folks say around here, have something at the end of it. I reached the house and interviewed the lady, and found myself engaged not to the lady, but to the show. To get the show down to a place called Pottsborough Sands, where I was to entertain a picnic party of school children. This was my second engagement, and already I began to feel professional, a feeling which became very decided when I was asked if I would take something, and was served with cider and cake, and the cook with cider and cake, and the cook in the cook's sitting room. The coming of Mr. Punch into this district seemed to be the satisfaction of a long-felt need, for on my way to this Pottsborough Sands, 2 more engagements appeared before me miraculously, but unfortunately for the same afternoon. The first was for a Conservative fete in August, which I accepted, and the second was an approach from the Order of Buffaloes, who were arranging an outing for the workhouse people in a neighbouring town. "We want to prove," said the particular buffalo who approached me, "that the Order of Buffaloes is a good institution. People think we just meet at the pub to drink beer, but we do lots of good without fussing about it, and now that we're going to show the general public by providing this outing to the poor that we can do something else besides drink a drop of beer. People look down on us, but look at me. I don't go to church or chapel myself, but I like to mix with people that do, because I can sometimes find that they have better ideas about things, than people who don't go to church. And we're going to do this thing properly. It's a charabancs and tea, and we've hired the swings and the roundabout for the day, and I thought if you could come along for half an hour or so, it would just be proper all round." I was disappointed not to be able to come with the buffaloes, and to see more of their natural human way of distributing charity. It was a good pull to Pottsborough Sands, away over the downs which runs out into a wild sea at Baggy Point. But when I did get there, it was to find a lovely stretch of sand beneath the cliffs and the blue sea fringed with white breakers. I soon stripped and bathed, which was a good refreshment after the stiff pulling. By the time I'd finished an al fresco lunch on the rocks, the children began to arrive, and put the showman in a good temper by hailing "the Peep Show" with squeals of delight. Before long, about 100 children had arrived, and I found myself and the village schoolmaster playing leapfrog round the sounds with the boys. Then we played at egg in the cap and cricket, after which the schoolmaster strolled off for a pipe and a rest, and I joined forces with the schoolmistress and the infants to play a game which was new to me. We performed in a circle with one child in the centre, and as we went round, we sang, "The farmer's in his den, the farmer's in his hen. Hi, tiddly, tiddly, hi, the farmer's in his den." After the verse, we paused while the children in the centre drew another into the circle. Sorry, the child in the centre drew another into the circle. We circumambulated again, and circumambulated, that's a nice word, isn't it? Circumambulated. Again, we circumambulated, as opposed to circumnavigated, circumambulated. Oh, there we go. Circumambulated again. And to this action, we sang the appropriate words. The farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife. Hi, tie, tiddly, hi, the farmer takes a wife. Again, we continued verse by verse until the wife had taken a child and a nurse, and the nurse had taken a dog, whereupon we fell in upon the poor dog, singing, "We all pat the dog, we all pat the dog. Hi, tie, tiddly, hi, we all pat the dog." And we all continued to pat the unlucky dog until the schoolmistress said, "Now that's quite enough, children," when we all took hands and started again, not forgetting to let ourselves go when it came to the "Hi, hi, tiddly, hi, we all pat the dog." Had it not been for the show, I would have been content to spend the whole afternoon singing that expressive "Hi, tie, tiddly, hi" with these Devonshire children on that glorious beach. But presently the audience was assembled and seated over the face of a large rock, and the puppets went through their first half of their programme. Then we all had tea. Some large wood fires had been boiling picturesque cauldrons of water, and innumerable washing baskets were produced, out of which came a generous quantity of sandwiches and cakes. And truly, my luck was in that afternoon, for after I had made a good start at one washing basket, my patroness invited me to take tea with her, and out of sheer politeness I was forced to begin all over again with a second washing basket. It was arranged that the second part of my performance was to take place after tea, seemingly with the idea of giving the children an opportunity to digest the rich cakes more than to amuse themselves. The show was a hilarious success, and the puppets received a very spontaneous call at the end. "Where's John Barleycorn? Where's Martha? Where's that there boxer?" the children called, and as each figure appeared, it was greeted with a mighty shout. The proceedings terminated with races and a presentation of balloons, when we all started over for home. And then, I'll read that last again. The proceedings terminated with races and a presentation of balloons, when we were all started off over the down for home. "Us'll give you a pull, mister," cried some of the boys, and seizing hold of the different points of the show, we all went up the steep hill together, accompanied by a cheerful racket. By 9 o'clock, I was back at my quiet encampment, tired but happy, soothing my soul with a bland supper of bread and milk. My appetite for engagements was increased by this cheerful day's experience, which had been an enjoyment in itself and had added 25 shillings to the Exchequer, for as well as the fee of the £1, I was presented with a tip of 5 shillings. We're on Chapter 8. Chapter 8 on composing puppet plays, which will be the beginning of our next one. For we have just gone over the halfway point in this remarkable book. I think we'll save that for tomorrow. And we will open up the package that has come from Andrew Norris. So there we go. Benedict circumambulated, says Dawn of Yawn. The farmer wants a wife, we sing that. Never wanted to be the dog at the end, though, says Lee Lawson. Ah, bless. Know what you mean, Michael, especially at 5 p.m. my time. Sorry, Martin, phone playing up. Probably better off with the cakes. Sean is probably on his plot working or something. Yes, could be. Anyway, there we go. Another reading done. Quite sufficient for my tongue and tooth, which is aching at the moment, but it'll get better. Anyway, thank you very much for coming along. Absolutely thrilling. Really enjoying this book. Glad we are reading it. There are more books of his which we will we will read them, think, throughout the year, but obviously we'll have a bit of a break and have something else in between. Another fantastic hour of book reading. Well, I've snubbed you by 10 minutes. I'm sorry about that. This has been another fine evening. Thank you very much. Thanks for the cake, Julia. Yes, thank you very much. So there we go. I've got a Vogue show to organise for tonight. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. There'll be a video for you tomorrow. And I hope you manage to stay warm wherever you happen to be. So keep smiling, and I will see you on the next one. Till then, take care. Bye for now. Bye-bye.